What's up, everybody? This is Tim from Arm Wrestling Secrets, and today we're going to be talking about the best exercises for low hand top roll pronation strength. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the equipment that we're going to be using today, and then we're going to talk about the low hand top roll and exactly what exercises we're going to do for that. Okay, guys, so let's take a look at some of the equipment that we're going to be using for our low hand top roll pronation strength. Okay, remember I made a video just a little while ago called Best Exercises for Low Hand Top Roll Pulling Strength. Okay, that was to work on the brachialis muscle and the pulling aspect of our low hand top roll. Okay, so now we're going to be working on the pronation aspect of our low hand top roll, okay, the pronation. Okay, so equipment here, we're looking at our box as usual. I got my trusty stability box to stabilize my elbow. As you know, if your elbow's not stable when you're training for arm wrestling, you're not training the right way. Okay, so we got some weights here. We got some heavier weights. I got a couple of 25s, I got some 10s, I got some 2.5s, I got some smaller weights here. We'll find the right combination with the exercises that we're doing. We have our loading pin. The weights are gonna go on there. I have my trusty pronation strap. This is the same strap we use for the basic pronation exercises for your high hand top roll, okay? And then we're using my selection, one of my favorite things, we're using some kettlebells here for exercise number 1 too. So stay around, let's talk about the low hand top roll, the function of pronation, and then we'll get right into the exercises. Okay, guys, so let's talk about the low hand top roll here a little bit before we get started with the exercises. Okay, so as you saw in the last video that I did on low hand top roll pulling strength, okay, that was the one we were working on where we were focusing on the pulling strength that you need when your hand is in a low hand top roll position. So remember, when you're doing a normal top roll, a high hand top roll, okay, your knuckles are high, okay, so your leverage is really good here, and you're focusing on pronation with your hand high. Your knuckles are high. That's your classic top roll. Okay, you're doing that motion. Now remember, with the low hand top roll, all of a sudden what you're trying to do is, and usually I use this as a counterattack to a hook or a press, okay? And we'll get into lots of that stuff later, but for exercise, okay, we're going to be looking at the low hand top roll. I use it as a counter to the hook and the press, okay? But you're going to be raising the low part of your hand. You're not dropping your hand. That's what a lot of people think is the low hand top roll, is you're just losing your wrist. That's not right, okay? What you're doing is you're rising the lower part of your hand, okay? So, and then you're still, the effort is still a top roll. You're still trying to roll through pronation, okay? So as opposed to the high hand top roll where your knuckles are high, you're pulling and you're trying to roll pronation with a high hand position. Now it's a low hand position, but we're still trying to pronate, okay? So our position would be here. You're imagining I have someone's hand, okay, in arm wrestling. Low hand, you're bringing up the bottom part of your hand, okay, and then rotating the same way. Okay, so low hand top roll, bringing up the low part of your hand, and then you're still trying the same pronation, but it's actually quite a bit harder. Okay, so when you're, as we talked about in the first video on low hand top roll pulling strength, okay, when your hand is taken away here, you do not have access to the same muscle groups that you do when your hand is high. When your hand is high, you have a lot more strength and connection with all of these muscles. When this wrist is taken away, your body senses a break in the chain here, okay, and you don't have access to the same muscles, okay? The brachialis underneath the bicep, and then second muscle group, very important that we're also going to be working today, is your ulnar flexion, your ability to, the strength on this side of the wrist, it's the opposite of the rising strength, okay? So when you're doing radial flexion, that's what I call it, okay? Strengthening the top of the wrist, we're doing the opposite. So when you're doing a low hand top roll, you need strength here. You need to be able to rise this part of your hand by using strength here. The low part of your hand, ulnar flexion. Okay, so the two different strengths we're gonna need here, okay, are obviously, we need to be able to pull, okay, and that's what the first video was based on, was pulling strength for low hand top roll. That's where we're using the kettlebells with a down wrist position, and we were pulling up this way with our arm on the box. Make sure you watch that video if you haven't yet. But for today, what we didn't do last time was work on your ulnar flexion and your pronation with a down wrist position. And that's exactly what this video is all about, okay? So what we're gonna be focusing on today is the pronation aspect of your low hand top roll, okay? So we're gonna be focusing on pronation with a down wrist, okay? And these are some of the exercises I wanna work on. So the first one we're gonna be doing is a kettlebell pronation twist in a low hand top roll position. And I'm gonna show you that right now. Okay guys, so the first exercise we're gonna be doing for low hand top roll pronation strength is actually gonna be called a kettlebell twist. This is a strange looking exercise, okay? Now remember, when your hand is in a low position, your pronation strength is not the same, okay? Your ability to pronate will be quite a bit stronger with a high knuckle position. When your hand is down, you'll realize your ability to pronate is reduced, okay? So the first exercise we're gonna be doing is gonna be kind of similar. We're using the kettlebell to maintain a low hand position, okay, as opposed to a high hand position, okay? We're maintaining a low hand position. On this exercise, what we're gonna be doing, we're gonna be using the box, and I'll demonstrate that in a moment, but it's actually gonna be a really simple movement. We're just doing the pronation. We're gonna keep our elbow against the box, okay? I'm just demonstrating here. Low hand, we're gonna pull and twist, pull and twist. That's pronation with a low hand position, okay? When the pronator's working, it looks a little funky. We're gonna get a little bit more natural looking exercises in a minute, but this is our first exercise, the low hand top roll kettlebell twist using the box, okay? So I have a few heavier weights here, so I'm gonna pick something a little bit heavier so you can get the idea. And then I normally do drop sets with this, so I picked 4 kettlebells. I'm not gonna do the whole thing for you, but you'll get the idea. Let's start with something fairly heavy, and I'll show you how it looks on the box, okay? Okay, so I just got a 26-pound weight here, kettlebell. Okay, so let's get a couple of different angles for you guys. Okay, so as you know, let me turn this sideways. Okay, so we're starting with a down wrist position. Okay, so that's mimicking our low hand top roll. That's really important. Okay, so with this, keep the hand bent down, and then we're gonna do that twist on the box. Okay, so what we're doing, let me back this up so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so from here, and we're going to pull at the same time. Pull, twist, twist. I can't come any higher than that, okay? Twist. Let's see from another angle, okay? Arms in arm wrestling position, okay? Pull and twist. Pull and twist. Pull and twist. Pull and twist. Okay. And then let me show that from this side too, okay? Okay, just so you can see the inside of my arm here. Okay, so basically, it's pull and twist, pull and twist. Oh, they're a lot harder than they look. So what I'll do is I'll usually start with a heavy kettlebell. Okay, I'll do as many reps as I can. Usually I pick a weight that's heavy enough so I can hit exhaustion after about 8 or 10 repetitions. Then I'll drop the weight to a little bit lower, drop the weight a little lower, drop the weight a little lower. So I usually do about 4 kettlebell drops on that exercise. Let's move on to the next one. Okay guys, so exercise number 2 for the low hand top roll pulling strength, we're gonna be using our plate loader, loading pin, okay, carabiner, and we're gonna be using my towel with the loop, okay? So we're gonna be using this over the thumb, and we're gonna be using a low hand position for our rotation rather than a high hand position, okay? So when we did the pronation exercises the other day, we were coming over the thumb with this ball here, okay? Taking a grip. So the weight is trying to rotate your hand over, and that's how we're building pronation strength, by pronating your hand against the weight, okay? So the same grip, we still want all the weight to go against your pronator, okay? But now we're dropping your hand, okay, like the low hand top roll. So instead of high hand, now it's low hand. It's harder now, okay? So same thing. Now we're gonna go, instead of here, with a high hand, now we're dropping the wrist, okay? So now we're gonna be going low hand instead of high hand. Okay, low hand position. Quite a bit harder on your forearms, okay? Quite a bit harder on the brachioradialis on the top of the forearm here, and then quite a bit harder on your pronation muscles with your hand down because your leverage isn't as good. So it's a little bit different muscle groups here, so it's definitely worth working on your pronation with a low hand position. If you want to be good at the low hand top roll, you need to have pronation and pulling strength in a low hand position, or it's not really going to work for you. Okay, so let's do this on the box and I'll show you how this looks. It's really simple. Okay, so just like I showed you, low hand, and we're pronating. Okay, don't be surprised if you're using less weight than you do with your high hand pronation. This is a little bit harder. Okay, so let's take a look at a few different angles on the box. Okay, so we're here, and the hand, let me turn this a bit. Okay, so the hand obviously is going here. We're turning it down, and let me move back here a little bit. Okay, turning down and then pulling up towards your opposite shoulder. Okay, down, pull, down, pull. From the side. Okay, so you see my hand position there. That's really key. So we're not here anymore, okay? We're down low, and we're pulling towards the opposite shoulder with a down wrist position. Okay, let me show you that one more time from the inside here. Okay, so the wrist is in a down position. So make sure when you're doing these pronation exercises, the wrist is always down, okay? And you're going to turn in, coming to the opposite shoulder with your wrist down. Try a set of those. Try picking a weight that's heavy enough for you to get 8 or 10 repetitions before you hit muscle exhaustion. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, guys, so exercise number 3 for our low hand top roll pulling strength is going to be an isometric hold in a low hand position, okay, with the weight trying to pull you over. Okay, we're going to use the same equipment, but this one you can use a lot more weight on. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Okay, so we got our, just for example purposes, I got a 25 on here. I got our plate loader, same stuff. Same apparatus as we had on the last exercise. Okay, so with this one, what we're going to be doing, let me move the box out of the way just a little bit. Okay, so what we're doing on this one, same thing, except an isometric hold, and now we can go pretty heavy. Okay, we're not going to be doing the active pronation. We're just going to hold a low hand position. Okay, so same thing with the rope. Okay, same position, same position. We're coming through, we're pronating in a low hand position rather than a high hand position. Low hand, okay, so it's putting the stress in the right place for your low hand top roll. Okay, so this one we're gonna try to pull the weight up as high as we can, and then we're just gonna hold it for as long as we can. And I want you to pick a weight that's heavy enough for you to hold between 15 and 30 seconds maximum. Okay, so this is what it's gonna look like. I'll show you a couple different angles. Okay, so I got 25 pounds hanging off the bottom here. Okay. Okay, so we got our rope on here. We're dropping the wrist into a low hand top roll position, and I'm going to hold this. I'm going to hold this low hand position as close to my head as I can, while the weight's trying to rotate me over there. Okay, and we're trying to keep as much pronation as you can. As it goes on, the weight's going to try to keep turning your wrist. Okay, so let me turn this around from the front, and then I'll show it from the other side as well. Isometric hold, low hand top roll pronation. Okay. Okay, from the front. Okay, same thing. Now remember, I'm not neutral. I'm pronating as far as I can, but in a low position, and I'm going to hold that. I'm going to hold that as close to my head as I can, and it's stressing the pulling muscles. It's also stressing the pronator, but with a down wrist position. Okay, so I'm going to hold that as long as I can. And then I'm just going to switch this around for the other angle so you guys can see. Okay. Okay, so same thing. This is really simple stuff. It's just isometric, so this is just a 1 rep, kind of like a 1 rep hold, okay, for as long as you comfortably can. Okay, so Remember, wrist is down, but you're pronating over as far as you can. So the stress is going to be here and around the wrist. Okay, so we're not neutral but low. We're turning. And I'm going to hold that as long as I can. And eventually it'll start to rotate your hand over. So as I said, go as heavy as you possibly can on that, as long as you can maintain that low hand top roll pronation piece, as long as you can, for about 30 seconds. If you can go more than 30 seconds or so, just add a little bit more weight. Okay guys, so the last exercise we're gonna be doing is we're gonna be working mostly on your ulnar flexion, okay? Now we already worked on ulnar flexion exercises, but I want you to remember the low hand top roll is a combination of strengths, okay? It's your pulling strength with your hand down, okay? That's different than pulling with your hand up or your palm facing you. You can use different muscles of the upper arm, okay? With your hand down, you need pulling strength with a hand down position. That's why we did pulling for the low hand top roll. If you're practicing for the low hand top roll by pulling with a high hand, you're not going to be strengthening the right muscle groups. It's not going to happen. You have to practice pulling with a low hand, okay? Now, that also includes strength. There's two other things you need, okay? So you have strength in the brachialis muscle. That's the muscles underneath the bicep. Those are your prime moving muscles when you're actually pulling. Your lat muscle, of course, is still working for you. So your back pressure with your hand down, okay? But two other muscle groups too, okay? Now we already worked on your pronation, okay? Low hand top roll is you're still winning by rolling the person over through pronation, okay? So even if your hand is in a low position, you're still pulling and rotating. It's the same as a high top roll where your hand is high, you're pulling and you're pronating. With a low hand top roll, your hand is low, you're pulling and you're pronating, okay? So obviously you need your pronation strength, okay? And then you also need strength in the ulnar flexor. Remember, when you're doing your low hand top roll, I really want to clarify that. When you're arm wrestling somebody and you're trying to bring up your wrist, you're not just dropping your wrist. It does not work that way. You need to pull and rise, and that's going to put pressure on their little fingers. If they're turning into a hook, it'll turn their hand upside down, okay? Okay, that's the motion. It's not, okay? It's pulling and rising the bottom part of your hand. Remember, what's going to rise the bottom part of your hand under pressure? Your ulnar flexion muscles, okay? If you have no muscles here, you're not going to be able to shorten this. You're not going to be able to change this position into a low hand top roll. Like I said, it's not just lose your wrist and do the move. That doesn't work at all, okay? You need to have dominant position here. Control, upward pressure here through strength in the ulnar flexor. So as I said, you already worked this position a little bit. And so we're going to be doing the towel on this last exercise, okay? So last exercise we got is this towel. And we're going to be putting it through the plate loader and the carabiner. Now we've already done these exercises, but I want to be really clear that the ulnar flexor is extremely key to your low hand top roll, okay, and the success of it. So I want to make sure we included it in this exercise. Obviously, it's not a pronation exercise, but without ulnar flexion strength, you're not going to be doing any good low hand top rolling. So I want to throw it in there. Okay, so towel, going through the carabiner. And then this one we're just going to do standing. We don't need the stability box. If we're standing in this position, okay, that's actually in the right position, okay, because we're actually facing our opponent. If we're facing down and the knuckles are actually facing the floor, in this case, it's actually the right position. We don't need to stabilize the elbow here. There's no real advantage to this. So we're just standing. We've done these already. We're going to do them again in this exercise just as a refresher. So for your low hand top roll, remember, you need pulling strength, pronation strength, and you need ulnar flexion strength. And that's how we're going to finish this video. Okay, so here we go. Now look at the rope here. So what I'm going to do, okay, I'm just going to take a grip like this. What you can also do if you want to work on your grip a little bit more with your fingers, okay, is you can take the towel if you have enough towel, and you can kind of double it up, and you can make the grip a little bit thicker, okay? So just by grabbing a little more towel, it makes your hand work a little bit harder. Okay, but you've seen these exercises. Okay, so all we're going to do here is the weight's hanging down, okay? Ulnar flexion. Okay, so we're working the muscles right through the bottom of the wrist there. Just like so. Make sure to hold at the top. Go all the way up. And try to pick a weight that's heavy enough to hit exhaustion between about 8 and 12 repetitions on that one. I hope this really works for your guys' low hand top rolling, and I'll see you guys in the next one.